Welcome to Deep Thought. Worlds die. Now, I talked about the different worlds out there, and these aren't like physical worlds, really. These are worlds of consciousness, worlds of perception. And the reality is, some worlds die. Some of them need to die. Like any world, any consciousness that says poverty is okay or dysfunctional behavior is okay need to die. Any world or consciousness that says it's okay to screw people over. And if you were to create a world based on it and people who have that mindset in the population, that world needs to die. The world of the demon lover, which is a population, thankfully it's not an organized subculture, needs to die. And unfortunately, sometimes worlds die and they needed to be positive. A culture of behavior in many communities where children showed respect for their parents and they were well behaved. Unfortunately, that world has been under attack, at least since the 70s. I watched some sitcoms and stuff, and you got these kids talking about back to their parents. In fact, that's why I like in the mid-'80s when the Cosby Show came up, because those parents weren't playing that. People don't know what that might have done, but then, because off the Cosby Show, there was a spinoff of Different World. And somebody decided to kill that world. Unfortunately, and the reason why, because during that period, enrollment at historically black colleges tripled. And so people were inspired. So somebody's like, oh, wait a minute. And there was a higher consciousness back there anyway. That was another world that died. I say from the period of about 1988 to 1992, particularly in the black community, there was a higher consciousness. People were behaving a lot of stuff. People were getting more into stuff. It kind of died. That's when the promotion of gangster rap, it was already there, but the real promotion of it nationally tended to shift that consciousness. But that was a world. In fact, in the D.C. area, murders went down actually around 91 or something. It's becoming more peaceful because there were a lot of men raising their consciousness. Because that's a world, that's a way of behavior, that's a way of interacting. But it just disappeared, and people, they got into the trifling stuff, that's, the whole promotion of ratchet behavior, negative behavior. And, that's especially a problem in the black community. The lower 12% of people who are living dysfunctional lives, the lumpen proletariat, people who live maybe a criminal existence as a way of life, is projected as the black community. And, I kind of hate that when either other black people feel that's the thing, but you're talking maybe 12% of the overall population. That world definitely needs to die, but unfortunately, it's too many levels it's kept going, but that needs to die. But the thing is, regardless good or bad, however you perceive a particular world, they die. And it's usually just people, maybe their consciousness evolves, or as is the case in many instances, their consciousness devolves. Because in order to keep a world alive, someone has to adhere to the world. They have to follow it. They have to behave accordingly in order to keep it. That's like any subculture. Like you say, you have a subculture of people who wear green all the time. Everything is green. Green shirts, green pants, green dresses, green shoes, green underwear. Green condoms if possible. You know, say you have a world and everything is based on green. They create magazines, everything based on green. But then somebody say, you know, it's whack to wear this all the time. So they start throwing some color in it. And then gradually people's like, well, we can't wear green everything. And then some people just get tired. They just say, you know, I just don't want to wear green anymore. That world will eventually die. And I mean, you get that. Like sometimes when you get fads or something, like you get everybody getting into something. I remember back in the day, when was this? 80s, when breakdancing was big. Now you still have situations where you still have dancing subculture, but I remember it was so big that you had people paying a lot of money just to be taught how to break dance. And I'm not sure how much of it is around now. Something is always going on somewhere because we got thousands of subcultures and stuff, but that eventually died down. You know? And that's just the thing. It's an interest. It's a culture, it's a vibration, it's a consciousness. You know, people go in and out of it. They'll die, they'll go away. Like I say, unfortunately, some of the more dysfunctional ones, they don't go away as easily. And, you know, I thought about that. And yeah, I know I go on tangents on this channel. That's probably because it's easy to be dysfunctional. Like, I know a lot of people, like, okay, here's a consciousness that's rising. And this is a preview for my next one. My next podcast, you know, that whole vaping thing. Though, that might take a hit because there's been some people dying lately because of it. Which, and I know I go on tangents, I kind of wonder about that because vaping making a lot of money, but anybody who makes cigarettes, they might be feeling something in their pockets. You know? And you could be having some more, you know, people pushing it because, you know, cigarette companies pay for a lot of ads in places. So you're like, that's changing. And plus, it'd be interesting if that's the case, especially since a lot of there's some cigarette companies starting to jump into the growing marijuana field. So, yeah, but worlds die. Well, speaking of a world, man, yeah, there's just so much. I'll say that one too for the next one. I was about to talk about one, but they die. They die. You know, it's like a language. Because understand, every world has a language. And it's deeper than like saying English, Spanish, French, or, you know, tree. It's deeper than that. It's a certain way that they're going to speak, a certain way they're going to interact. And really, that's what's happened to some ethnic groups. They're no longer around because no one no longer speaks the language. But, you know, boom. You know, worlds die. And really, it is a part of evolution. Stuff comes up, the sun rises on some things, but then it also sets as well. That's the nature of worlds. That's the nature of cultures, certain ethnic groups, religions. The sun rises and the sun goes back down. So worlds die. And, you know, of course, I was thinking about this in connection with my podcast yesterday on musing on different worlds. Because I was like, you know, you get so much. And like I said, I actually like that. I probably do. I always think about getting another degree, maybe in a PhD or something in sociology. You know, do a dissertation on different subcultures, be an expert. I might do that. Yeah, I might do that just for fun. Be one of those older guys, get into school or something. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I have for today. As always, it's something to think about. Just to be clear, this whole channel is to get you to think. I don't provide answers. I just open up your mind. So anyway, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.